How's it going, guys? I'm back with another video crafted with the most advanced technology in the game, as always. This time, it's in regards to ranking the Arctic Monkeys albums. And in case you didn't know, because I don't know who I'm talking to, you might not be super familiar with the Monkeys. Um, they have a six-album discography so far, starting with whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not, and ending with, at least of right now in 2018, Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, each one being incredibly diverse, some more than others, which makes it kind of hard to compare them. It's almost as if they weren't meant to be compared to each other, because a lot of them can stand on their own. But regardless, let's just get right into it. So, let's get the big one out of the way. At number 6, we have AM, the album that brought them mainstream success. Now, right now, this either makes sense to you as a big fan, or you're incredibly upset because it's the only album you know. I don't know how it is in the UK, but in the States, this is really like the only album that gets recognition, and that's fine. I'm glad that the Arctic Monkeys are getting exposure, but it does not take away from the fact that just a lot of their past albums are just a bit more diverse, a bit more raw, a bit more creative in what they're trying to say, even if it's just talking about everyday life in Sheffield. Even that is just more lyrically interesting than some of the stuff we get here. And by no means am I saying that this is a bad album. This is a good album. It's just that there's five others that are better than it. And just a lot of the instrumentation is stripped down a lot, and that I guess that fits the aesthetic, the theme of like nightlife, but instrumentally, it's not as interesting. There are a few great gems on here. I love Knee Socks, I love Fireside, and of course the big singles. But other than that, this is an album that like with most people, it really grabbed me at first, but as you keep listening to it, you kind of start to realize that there's not as much there as you thought there was, especially as you start listening to the rest of their albums. So at number 5, we have Suck It In See. This is an album that I originally was going to put at number 6, but since then I've kind of realized that unlike AM, where as you keep on listening to it, you start to find out it's a bit bland, this is an album that is certainly a grower. I wasn't a big fan of it at first. The only reason I really came to it was to listen to Pile Driver Waltz, which is a lovely, sweet piece of light alt rock. And, every once in a while, I let the album play out from there, just one hit pause after that song, and I started to realize, wow, the back half of this album, after Pile Driver Waltz, kind of offers a lot of that same light melodic alt rock. And, it's, you gotta be in the mood for it, but it's good. And then, so yes, and then I found the first half of the album to be not as good, but still holds up pretty well. You have a few standouts there, like Black Triacle, and the Hellcat, Star Spangled Banner, blah blah blah, and Library Pictures, which is like a huge burst of energy. So yeah, overall, there's not like a lot of standouts on this album, but also there really isn't a bad song on here that I could just say I don't like that song. Maybe besides Brick by Brick, which is a bit repetitive and is kind of just a big meme amongst the community. But other than that, it really is a good album that blends together very well. All right, so at number 4 we have the big debut. Whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. Now a lot of fans would probably put this at number 1. I'm not saying everyone, but I know a lot of people that hold this as their favorite album, and I don't blame them. It's a great album, and I don't really have a lot to add to the conversation in terms of what makes this album great. It's just, it's amazing that they made it such a great album at such a young age that, discusses such, simplicities in life as having drinks with the boys, running from the cops. And even if you never experienced any of that, this album is compelling enough to make you feel like a sense of nostalgia for all of that. But it was their first album, and they wrote it at a young age, and I feel like since then, their music has only grown and matured with them, and that, musically, a lot of their stuff has become more complex and more emotional. And of course, that's not to say that this is a bad album. Like I've said before, we're ranking 6 good albums here. So at number 3, I have Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. And I don't think I have to tell you that this is an incredibly different album. Just It's a stark contrast to everything in their discography. I could see this going anywhere on anyone's personal rankings. And for me, it goes at number 3. Yes, this is my third favorite, shockingly. It's just, maybe it's just because it's so different. And like I said, Suck It and See was a grower for me. This took the same amount of time to grow on me, but it grew twice as much. Everything went from mediocrity to just pure excellence upon a few listens. And anyone who says that it's too samey and everything sounds the same, I'm telling you, they haven't sat there and listened to each song as its own individual entity. Because the differences are there, and all the little intricacies, especially the bold choice to take the guitars and put them on the back seat for some more subtle instrumentation and some different sounds. I think it all really came together to make what was overall just a really interesting concept album. And it's something that I can just keep listening to. It has a very high replayability value just because of how different each song is and the different things you could pick up on the lyrics and everything. I mean, just the concept of a hotel on the moon, it just makes for some very interesting lyrics that I can always go back to. So yes, it's a great album in my opinion. So at number 2, I have Favorite Worst Nightmare, which I think takes everything from their debut album and just improves upon it vastly. Like the instrumentation provides for better hooks, the guitars on Brian Storm are just iconic to me. Overall, there's just greater hooks, like on Fluorescent Adolescent, one of the catchiest songs in their entire discography, and it takes the emotions to a whole new level. I mean, there's some like emotional stuff on here, like "Do Me a Favor" and 505. I really don't have a single bone to pick with this album. Maybe I don't know. I feel bad putting these in like the least favorite tracks area, but "D is for Dangerous" and "Baklava." I said that right? Yeah, Balaclava. Those are good songs. I just think that they're the weakest on the album. By no means, I never skip them when I listen to the album. That's the only reason why they're there. Just want to clarify. But yeah, that's all I have to say. It's a great album. And now, at number 1, if you're some kind of genius, you probably figured it out already. It's Humbug. And the thing about Humbug is, for me, is that it just takes some of the best aspects from the other albums and it's all seen here. You know, the raw rock of their debut, the emotional aspects of their sophomore album, some of the softer, more subtle sounds of Suck It and See, and even Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. It's all here, and it's all drenched in this southern rock sound that I love. And to really just dumb it down a bit, it just has the best songs on it, in my opinion. Like, it has 5 of my favorite songs throughout their entire discography on here, and my favorite song of all time by them, which is Secret Door, which is probably, in my opinion, closely followed by Dance a Little Liar and Crying Lightning, probably. And, you know, if I had to pick 2 songs to take off this album, which I wouldn't ever, but if I'm gonna put like at least favorite tracks on here, it would probably be Dangerous Animals and Potion Approaching. But even those aren't bad songs, just to the standard of the rest of the album. Those 2 would be it. But yeah, it's a great album. I think encompasses all the changes that they've made throughout their 6 album run. So yeah, that concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I apologize if you heard construction noises the whole time. I'm gonna have to look back and listen to this. They're working on the roof here, so I apologize if you just hear random hammer noises. If you're here now listening to this, I assume you dealt with it and you watched the whole video, so thank you. If you want me to rank another band's discography, or if you want to hear a review on any of these albums, anything, just leave it down in the comments, and I will always consider it. And, yeah, that's going to do it.